What's up, guys? I'm stressing like crazy. Not stressing, racking my brains. That's the book that I was talking about in the last video, the treasure that we went looking for in Houston. And I'm not so sure it's there anymore. So, for one, go buy the book right now. If you're even interested in this in the least, go get this book. There's a lot of stuff in here you need to read. So, for one, all of these are going to be really hard to find because it's been 30-something years. No telling what's changed. Landmarks aren't going to be the same. Stuff's going to be missing. Stuff's going to have been built around them in different places. It's going to be hard to find. You got to keep that in mind. These were all hidden in 1981. But I get this book and I start reading through it. It's all good. You know, everything's good. I'm reading and it's interesting. And I'm picking up on little keywords, picking up on little stuff. So, I'm not going to show you the image, but I will tell you it's image 8. It's all over the place. Image 8. It's got some pretty hard references to the Middle East and the deserts. It's got sand dunes. It's got a camel. It's all brown. It's got quite a bit of stuff that links it to the Middle East. So, there's an image in the middle that we thought might be a fountain. It's not a fountain. They might have used it as a fountain as far as like imagery, but it's not supposed to depict a fountain. So that stone is a ruby, right? So let's go back a little bit. I started reading through here. The tale simply told tells you about, what happened and stuff. Chapter 2 is the passage to the New World. It says, in which the reader meets the fair people and learns of their immigration. So I'll start going through here, and it tells you what happened. It tells about how the old world, which is like Europe and Asia and Africa and all that area over there, is the old world. The fair people, which are fairies and elves and gnomes and trolls and dwarves and all kinds of stuff, brownies, people of peace, all this stuff. They all make travel over here to get away from humans because the humans were just violent and ruining everything that they liked about the old world. So they come over, right? It's all good. We read through, you see when they came over. Well, then it goes to this little kind of tells you what's going on with who brought what. It's the Litany of the Jewels, and it tells you, there's a little poem here, and I'm not going to read all of it, but it starts off, what are the treasures the fair folk bring? Easily named and lovingly told. Fairies of England proudly bear garnet, crown jewel of their queen. So that tells you the fairies that came from England brought the garnet. Okay, so I started writing that down. The garnet came from England. I figured it might be a clue. Brilliant as eyes of Celtic folk, cold morning green, their emerald. So I wrote that down. Emerald came from Celtic areas, so I don't know. Then it goes through all the stuff. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. Hadas. Hadas is what I'm calling it. The Hadas of Iberia, sapphire, shy as a wildflower. So I wrote it down. Sapphire came from Iberia. So it goes through, keeps on continuing like that for a couple of pages. It gets down here. The one that caught my eye was the ruby. It says the ruby out of Araby, scarlet of desert sky at dawn. So that tells me. I said, okay, Arabic nation, Middle East, the desert. I write it down. Okay, ruby. That leads me to that picture that we were looking at, the one that they think is in Houston. So then we'll skip over to the next one, and it starts talking about the vanishing, about what happened when they got here. They were disappointed because there were already natives living in the New World, and if you haven't caught on, the New World is North America. So this is before anybody discovered North America. They got here, and they were disappointed because the natives lived here. But then once they got to interacting with them, they figured out that they were a lot like the fair people. So as far as like earth, fire, water, that's what the fair people were born of, and the Indians, don't call them Indians, they don't like that, but the Native Americans were also really respectful of those things. They thought highly of all that. So they had a lot in common, so they started interacting. Some of them were skirmishes, but they got to where they were getting along with pretty good. And so it says, so, for instance, right here it says, they were surprised and somewhat disappointed, therefore, to find that native tribespeople, and then in parentheses it says, whom they were never so foolish as to call Indians, were already in residence from the northernmost coast where the Scandinavian elves confronted the Inuit and the Beothuk. Now, the Scandinavian elves were the ones that made the casks. Remember, each one's in a cask. There was 13 tribes that came over here. The elves was one tribe. They made the casks. Every other tribe left one stone. That's where the 12 treasures come from, and that tells you that in the book. Go get the book. Trust me, you want to read it. And then it says, to the southern shores where the Iberian Hadas were greeted by the Temuka and the Calusa. So I looked, I said, hey, Iberia. Sapphire and Iberia. So I looked that word up online, Temuka and Calusa. And I don't know if I'm saying those right either, but turns out those were tribes of Native Americans that lived in Florida. So I just wrote it down. I said, okay, Sapphire came from Iberia, it's in Florida. Simple enough, right? Like I said, he did this before there was internet. He did this before you could just sit down and get on a computer and look up the images and look up where they're at like a lot of people are doing nowadays. For one, if you're doing that, shame on you. Get the book. That's the whole point of this, is the book. So it goes on. I read, it talks about some other stuff, and I was just kind of looking right here. The Italian immigrant Folletti and the indigenous Powhatan engaged briefly in a sort of guerrilla gang war over fishing rights off the peninsula of what is now New Jersey. So that one was a little confusing because the Italian thing was the Boston one, not New Jersey. So I haven't figured out how those two tied together. However, the stone that they brought came from Italy. It was the peridot. The peridot was the Italian beings brought over. So we keep going on. Remember, I'm looking at Ruby because that's the one that I've studied the most. I've studied Image 8 the most. I can almost quote the whole verse that they think is tied to that one. So it goes down, and it says, the fabulous carpet weaving techniques of the Jean and the Perry were admired and then mastered by the people who were their neighbors in the vast and pleasant desert regions of the New World Southwest. It was a sort of place to which the spirits of Araby were naturally attracted. Now, let me tell you something. I looked that up, and it said that Arizona and New Mexico are the only two states that are always considered the desert regions of the Southwest, right? Texas, it says where you're reading, may or may not include Texas. However, if you've ever been to Houston, you know Houston has never been considered desert region. So that right there is plain in the book, tells me that that image does not go with Houston. Now, there's a lot of people arguing, saying it's got the coordinates in the picture. It's got the shape, matches a park in Houston. I disagree, because if you think about it, all of that stuff that has told anybody any of that was online, as far as the people that I know. If we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't have known any of that, and we wouldn't have necessarily tied that image to Houston. So I'm trying to forget everything that I heard online and go back to this. So then I go back and I read that. That caught my mind. That caught my eye. It says the Jinn, D-J-I-N-N, were from Araby, and that's what it was talking to, where they were at. So I flipped back a little bit, kind of got ahead. This might take me a second to find this, but just bear with me. It's getting there. It's getting there. When it's talking about who is who, I believe it's back in this part. Right here. Now in the eternal whirlwinds above Persia's mountain of Kaf, K, and then A with a little thing over it, F, K-A-F, a little thing over the A. I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm going to call it Kaf. Appeared a caravan of magic wrought carpets. There's the carpet that it was talking about in the other part. And upon them rode the banished elder spirits of Araby, monstrous Deves, desert-born giants, the Peri, I guess that's how you say it, P-E-R-I. And then listen to this. with a Peri, bright and beautiful as starlight. And then listen to this. And the wish-granting Djinn, D-J-I-N-N, formed of smokeless fire, at last free from man's lamps and bottles. Now, if you've ever watched Aladdin, you know, you rub the lamp, out pops a genie, grants you wishes. Genie, Jinn, Genie, Genie, whatever. I'll tie those two together. So then, if you go to image 8, now, I am going to cover up most of this, and I'm going to show you that one little part of that image, just to show you that. What can I use? Kind of looks like a genie there, doesn't it? So that, once again, just confirms that that's what they were talking about, and that image goes with that. So, the one thing I can't get over, okay, I understand that's the shape of the park, and they've got the coordinates and stuff, but the one thing I don't understand is if he was writing this so that you would read the book, and he was doing that to where you would get your clues from the book, why it would say that one line, and I'm going to read it one more time so that you'll know. The fabulous carpet weaving techniques, talks about the carpets, magic carpets they had flying around, of the Jinn, which is genies, and Peri were admired and then mastered by the people who were their neighbors in the vast and pleasant desert regions of the New World Southwest. It was a sort of place to which the spirits of Araby would be naturally attracted, were naturally attracted. Why would it say that if he was doing this whole book to give you the clues, to tell you where to look? Why would he make that tie that that's where you need to be looking, is in the desert regions of the Southwest? Because it goes on, in that part, it goes on, and it's a lot to read, but there's a whole story about them and what happened. But it says that they, let me see if I can find it easily, but it said that they left their jewels and disappeared out of the eye, out of the view of man. So man would never see them again. I don't see that part. I can find it, but it'd take too long, make the video too long. We're already at like 12 minutes. But anyways, that's what I came up with. You can come on down here, tell me why I'm an idiot. I want somebody to convince me that it's different, that that's not where that is. Also, in Arizona, I was just kind of looking up, and this will get me off on a whole nother rabbit hole, but I was kind of looking up. In Arizona, there's a guy named High Jolly. He was the guy that came over whenever they bought whenever the U.S. Army bought all the camels way back before the Civil War for the Camel Corps, they called it. He's the guy that brought him over, and he came over and he lived here for a long time, took care of the camels, did all that. There's a monument in Arizona that's a pyramid with a camel on top, and the camel's facing to the left. Same as on image 8. So I don't know if that means anything. There's also, it says in the verse that they think goes with that one, it says in the center of 4 alike. Arizona and New Mexico are 2 of the states that make up the 4 Corners Monument. You can stand in 4 states at once. There. Does it mean anything? I don't know. I've just been looking up, trying to find stuff to make a connection between them. I don't ever find really anything that links us to Houston unless we're already in Houston. If you're already looking at it like you think it's in Houston, then you can find stuff to make the association between them. I can't make that association just on my own. Anyways, tell me why I'm wrong. If you need to see what the book is, it's called The Secret, A Treasure Hunt. Really good book just to read and learn. Like I said, the first part of the book is up to here, gets you to the images and the verses, and all the rest of this is like a guide to tell you what people came from where and what they do and how you can see them every day and that sort of thing. It's pretty cool. Check it out. Go get it. I think this copy cost me $24 for the hardback on Amazon. It's not really that much. And yeah, come tell me why I'm wrong now, because I would love for somebody to absolutely convince me without using stuff that they found online in a forum that is in Houston.